Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the stream today. Before we dive in, go ahead and like, follow, and subscribe on the platform that you're watching this on right now. Your support helps me keep doing what I love, creating content that inspires, teaches, and entertains. Make sure you turn on your notifications so you never miss when I go live. Let's get into it and have some fun. Hey everybody, happy Saturday evening. I am really excited that you took the time out to watch this stream. And me, I'm Robert Harris from TinkerTech EDU, and I am doing a 7-day stream with some of my favorite guests. And you don't see this person yet on the screen yet because I want to be able to bring her in and pop her in and make sure that also my stream is working okay. But I want to welcome a very special person, and I'm glad that she is here, kicking off this this stream. And this is someone who is very close to my heart. We've known each other for many years, and forgive me because I am reading it directly from my notes because I don't want to mess anything up. But we started together. I don't even know how we met, but I know that we started on the esports edu chat. So if you've seen those, you've seen that myself, I can get pretty spicy on there. I can get pretty heated on there. But that's not what this is about. I'm showcasing and highlighting the work that this lovely person is doing. But that's how we met. And her name is Carrie Linden. And Carrie is a game designer, educator, and a creative at Snowbright Studio. And it's a company that redefines what industry is, and they welcome tabletop and digital experiences and what they could look like in the gaming culture. If you have ever wondered what it takes to build games that center around safety, identity, and representation and community, this person, Carrie, my friend, is one of those voices that's leading and doing some great work. And for me, what stood out when we first connected was just her expertise in this space, not just esports, but gaming and representation, and her heart behind the approach. And what she brings into programs are things that are inclusive, and she's not afraid to ask those really hard questions. She's gotten me to really come out of my shell and ask those really hard, uncomfortable questions, and I really I'm thankful for her about that, because it's going to help your programs. No matter if it's gaming, no matter if it's esports, no matter what it is, having to learn how to ask those uncomfortable questions is really going to help you move forward in what you want to do in your space. And when it comes to the gaming space, she thinks deeply about how players experience the world, how stories shape us, and how gaming culture can become more human, more compassionate, and more imaginative. She is a person who has definitely taken me off plenty of ledges. And so I'm very excited to have her. So tonight, everybody, please welcome to the Rewind, Miss Carrie Linden. And before let me make sure I got her on the stream here. There you are. Did you get to hear all that?
I did.
Okay, good. It took me a while to really write that and really piece it together.
It was very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope I didn't make you cry.
No, I'm like, I'm going to hold it together over here. I'm going to hold it together.
Yes, you don't know how. I know we're supposed to be in the show, but you don't know how much, like, when I say you have taken me off of many ledges, you have taken me off of many ledges. And we've had very deep conversations when it comes to being in this space. For me, when it comes to being a black man in this space, for you being a person of LGBTQ in this space, woman, everything. we have we have shared a lot of tears together.
We have, and I deeply value our friendship and the working relationship that we've had because it is important to be able to have those conversations and know that they're safe. So now I'm gonna tear up. So no, it right back at you.
Yeah, I mean, especially even in our uh, pre-interview talk about just because we folks who are coming in and listening, um, we don't talk often, but when we do, it's very impactful. We check in, see how each other's doing, things like that. But especially with the work that Carrie is doing, it's so it's so amazing and it's so thought provoking. And so I want to start off with how did before I get into my first question, how did you even get into this space that is gaming? Period. No matter if it's esports, tabletop, digital, how'd you get into it?
Yeah, so it's kind of like gaming has been something that's been really important to me for the entirety of my life. So when I was little, we lived out in the country. We had a little house and we had like an Atari and a ColecoVision. And my parents sat down with me and we played together. So I played Cubert and we did like BC Quest for Tires. And I watched my mom, who was really passionate about Pac-Man and Frogger, and my
Mm,
dad like liked the console games but wasn't really that big into them until we got our first PC, and then we discovered things like Roger Wilco and the entire Myst series, and then he really became my gaming best friend. And we would stay up and sometimes ridiculously late until mom would come down and be like, you have to go to work in the morning and you have to go to school in the morning. You guys need to go to bed, because we would be sitting there at this tiny little PC in the kitchen with like one of us would have a big notebook and the other one would have control of the mouse, and we'd be arguing about what combination we needed to try or what code we needed to use or if there was a symbol that we had missed, and we just went super deep. And then when I moved out of Northern California, we continued to play a ton of video games together. So we would talk on the phone and we would pick a game and we'd both download it at the same time, and we would send each other mail. So like he would draw
mm,
maps and photocopy and mail me things, and I'd mail him things, and he'd call me if there was like a color problem because he's colorblind, and I would
okay.
call him sometimes if it was an audio thing because I'm hard of hearing, and we'd continue to play together even though we were at that point like 300 miles away from each other. And that has just carried through. When I was streaming like 3 days a week, he was my streaming buddy.
Oh wow.
And we still play together. We've got a realm that we've been in for years in Minecraft that is just massive. He plays every day. So games have just always been really important to me because it is it's how my dad and I adventure together, even though we don't live anywhere near each other. And then when I had a kid, obviously he was born into a house that was very gaming forward. Like he was a baby and I was playing Skyrim. Um, and so he grew up with games in the house and he fell in love with games, different games than I did. He's a big FPS player, and he plays some other big MMOs and stuff. So his passion is in a different direction, but it's still gaming. And
Right.
because he started playing so young, um, he jumped into the competitive world early. And so at that point in time, I was teaching and I was just aware of how much of a connection point the fact that I gamed was with my students. And then I was seeing where my kid was with gaming being, somewhat of a moneymaker for him when he was little. Like this was something that he did and he was really good at it. And for a while, that was kind of something he was interested in pursuing. Um, so I devoted a lot more education to it, and I dove a lot deeper into kind of the career paths that go along with it and the impacts of gaming on youth, how it could be used in an education setting. What are the pitfalls that were really clear in the industry at that point in time, and kind of how do you counter them? Um, for a while, I was in the process of setting up a private school with a really good friend of mine, and I was teaching content creation and kind of introduction to gaming for teenagers, and we really tore apart the industry because there were so many kids that wanted to make a living online, but there's so many hazards there and there's so many things that they don't think about. So we would
Right.
go through and we would study how streamers manage chat. We would study branding. Like we tore things apart on top of playing games and looking at game design and marketing and all of that. Um, so it just kind of was something that it it was always a passion for my or a passion for me, but the depth that I took it shifted when it also became this really impactful thing for my students and for my own son. Um, and then I kind of fell into the world of esports through that, uh, and just it just kind of it just kind of went from there.
Yeah.
The board game thing came on a little bit more once I arrived at Snowbright. I've always liked board games, but I don't really come from a big board game family, and my household isn't really big into board games. So my experience level with that is different. It's much more limited than it is than on the digital side, but the same things that apply
Mhm.
in the video game world and how it can be used for education and bridging gaps and forming community, it's really the same.
Yeah.
um and I did use them in my classroom. I used TTRPGs and tabletop games in my classroom pretty extensively, so I have explored them in a lot of different facets. I don't have the huge like wall of board games that most of the people that work in the industry that I do have. I'm like, yeah, I got these. I play a lot of exit games. Okay, I have tabletop escape rooms. Those are my favorite. But yeah,
Yeah, I have board games and I need to be better at it. I think more. I see myself more as a collector. Like, ooh, isn't the box pretty? And that's really bad of me to say that. People out there, that's really sad. But like, I do have I do have a I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, respect for both. And as I'm listening to your story, like we have a lot of parallels there. And the first thing it and I feel like, and this could be a totally another podcast, but the first thing that I noticed was like the adult in the room, the parent in the room is bringing this idea into the household. I think, and this is just my opinion. Again, I'm trying to hold my rant in, but I think that's sort of lost because the adult would come to room, not necessarily controlling it, because the parent, the adult didn't know what this was. It could have been Dungeons and Dragons. It could have been Monopoly. It could have been Call of Duty. Whatever it was, they come in like, I don't know what this is. But between you and I, my parents did the same thing. They brought this into the household, and it was something for the family unit to pursue. It was something that, let's get in together. I don't know I don't know Pac Man. I don't know this, I don't know that, but I know this is something that we can do together, and have conversations together outside of everything else that we do, dinner and all those kind of things. And I love the way you talk about how it evolved. I think you said your siblings or other family members, where it just evolved, where you started doing other things long distance, and you just expanded to it. And I heard a lot of inclusivity with that. You talked about your disabilities and your family members' disabilities while you're playing certain things, writing letters on the phone. Like, who does that right now? Nobody does those things. But I see now where you're getting your passion for games, because you're taking it to another level, and you're still making connections, and you're still wanting, before the internet, before the social media, you're still making connections. You're bringing writing into this space. You're showing, here's how you can come in with certain disabilities and still be a part of a community in this space. And so it's no wonder you say the things that you say, and you bring it to the table. No wonder you speak so much about inclusivity, because it was there from day one. I do the same thing. Like, it was introduced with me to my family. Like I said, my parents brought something in, and it has evolved with my children. Of course, my children have different ways of doing games. We're all digital when it comes to gaming, but like, that's how we bond. That's how we relate. One of the major ones. We have relate to other things, but like, having that conversation and talking about representation and those little things. My one child more than the other, but we still have those same conversations. Um, that is amazing. That no, it's no wonder you are who you are. But so, what brought you into Snow Bright?
So Snowbright was kind of interesting because obviously at the time that you and I were doing all of the esports EDU stuff, Grace, who is the CEO of Snowbright, was very active also in the esports EDU industry. And at that point we were known as Liminal Esports.
I remember that.
They had started up this company and were exploring alternatives to traditional esports education programs. Um, and so Grace and I were active in the same online spaces. And then Steve Isaacs was putting together a panel for Serious Play in Florida and invited both Grace and I to be, I think we were like two of the five panelists. And so that's kind of the first time we got to meet in person. And so there was just kind of a lot more contact that was happening between the two of us. But Grace was aware of the work that I was doing within the esports EDU space and was aware of kind of the stuff that I was doing around social media and community building. So when Snowbright had an opening for somebody to work in the comms department, they reached out and were like, "Hey, we're a brand new company, but we need somebody to come on
Mm-hmm.
and help out with some of the comm stuff. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to work with you. Like the stuff that Grace has been doing is, it was really exciting to be able to be attached to that, and I was really excited for what we were going to do as a company. So I came on originally as part-time and then moved to full-time, I think about
Oh,
6 months later.
okay.
And I think I wrapped up my 6th year there with Snowbright this fall. So I'm working on
Wow.
my seventh right now. So I've been there quite a while. Yeah, it's been a really cool place to work.
I love. I didn't know how long it was gonna take because last year this happened too. Steve Isaacs always comes into the conversation somehow. I don't even know if Steve is listening to this, and I'm probably only saying this as a clip. He always comes into the conversation because he connects so many
He's
people.
the Kevin Bacon
Oh my
of the ed
god,
tech world.
that is the first time ever. He is the Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
That is so crazy because I was trying to hold that in like okay, how long like if you mention Steve Isaac's name, take a drink.
Yep. Yep. It happens.
It's so crazy.
He has connected so many of us, I think, within the industry. So
Absolutely, and the stuff that he's doing in the inclusivity space with his company is awesome. Um, my first question to you is, as I'm reading it, your company Snowbright.
yes.
How does it intentionally build world centered inclusive? We are talking about inclusivity. How does it build inclusive worlds through game design, and how does all that look from behind the scenes? You talk about that a lot, especially when you know with liminal studios and all that. But give us a peek behind the curtain on how do you all build inclusive worlds?
So I think the first thing is that we look for gaps in the industry. So if you take Tea Time Adventures, for example, when we were just kind of flirting with the idea of that, there was a lot of TTRPGs out there, but
Mm-hmm.
pretty much everything on the market was very high combat. There was a lot of dungeon crawling, there was a lot of killing dragons and wizards, there was just a lot of fighting.
Okay.
And we noticed that there was a lack of just cozy combat free space. And so there was a desire to create something for a larger demographic because not everybody wants combat um, for a myriad of reasons. And we were like, well, if this doesn't exist, we need to make it. And so we hit crowdfunding the same time as Wanderhome, which is like one of the big, kind of first well-known cozy TTRPGs. So it was the two of us out there, starting kind of like to push the way for uh for cozy TTRPG games. Um, and then in the process of developing Tea Time Adventures, we also wanted to make sure that we were seeing really positive, heartwarming representation within it.
Mhm.
A lot of our company is either queer identifying or identifies as neurodiverse or disabled. So we've all had very different lived experiences, and it can sometimes be really hard to find good, wholesome representation because a lot of times when you see representation around queerness or disability, it's very trauma informed or
Mhm.
trauma forward, and we were like, we don't want that. We want this to just be like, we want it to be cozy and wholesome. So we set out to create a world where, you know, there were characters with disabilities. There were characters that were all over the rainbow, and it just is like
Right.
it's not necessarily like a big plot point for them. They just happen to be, and the story is the relationships, and the story is the town drama, but it's not, they're allowed to just be in their own skin and live their own lives. So we have Joe, who is in a wheelchair. We have our mayor, Blinken Montesquieu, who is a trans single father, and he's hard of hearing. And so for me it was like, there we go. Like there's that HOH representation in there. And we've got, characters from all kind of walks of life in there. And it's kind of really beautiful to be able to have that in there. Just even like Mayor Montesquieu being a single dad was really cool representation to be able to throw in there because it's not always there. Um, and then it was really important for us that that representation was canonical. So I'm going to share my screen really quick.
Okay, let me
Um,
switch my screen. Hold on. But go
is
ahead
that
and
okay?
share. Yeah, you're perfectly fine.
Okay.
You are
Let
perfectly
me
fine.
let me grab it because I think that's the thing that for me is really important, because a lot of times you see a lot of times content is hinted at, or it's added in after the fact. Some people are like, oh well, that character's actually gay, and you're like, well, there was nothing written into this character that shows that. So for us it's really important that if something exists, that it's canonical. So if you go into Tea Time Adventures and you go to the NPC blocks in the back, there's breakdowns of all of the NPCs that you're going to find in those adventures. And they've got their pronouns listed, they've got their gender identification, their orientation is down there, as well as any disabilities that they have. So if you really want to play an authentic game as a party, you know how to refer to these characters, you know kind of where their interests lie and how they identify. Um, and there's just no question. So if somebody's like, oh well, I think this character's a lesbian, and somebody's like, oh no they're not, you crack open the book, and it very clearly is like, yeah, no, actually this person is, or this person's pansexual, or this person's poly. Like it's all in there. So there is no question, the representation is there, and we're not shy about it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that was just, for us, a really important thing, that that inclusion was there, that it's not, like I said, it's not the storyline that drives things, but they're allowed to just be there as they are, as whole people, and participate in these stories. And that can be really important because a lot of times we don't get to see that. um
So I really like that. So is it part of the game, or is it like, here's just their backstory, just so you could have something to just like hold on to? Because I do notice a lot of games do have this. I'm trying not to name any particular games or anything like that, but like just to have that, just just to have that backstory to connect with. Is that part of the game, or is it just?
I mean, I think the beauty of TTRPGs is that can be dependent upon a GM. So your game master can really put in as much of a character's backstory as they want to. Like,
Mhm.
you're going to meet these characters. Like, if you play through the adventures, one of the first characters that you usually meet is like Efferson, and he runs a vegetarian sausage shop, and he's um, very much like an asexual character, and he works in a sausage shop. So parties come in and they're throwing around innuendos, and he's got no patience for it. He's like, I don't get you people and this thing, like, because he doesn't
Okay.
feel that, he doesn't experience that, and he's a little grumpy to kind of boot, to sort of start with, just to begin with. So he's there, and it's there, and if you interact with him in a way that's disrespectful of kind of his, where he is as as a person, you're going to get some pushback from him, because he's the kind of guy that's going to put you in your place. um and obviously, like, some of the storylines involve kind of romance or flirting within the village, or there's love stories that happen kind of in the background that you're helping people navigate, and those aren't always straight romances. So
Yeah.
it depending on the character, it'll either be really forward, or it'll just be like, if you would like to have your players meet this character in a more in-depth way, here is some more information to help you as a GM play them in a way that is honoring who we saw them as characters.
And you know what? I just now look at this, and maybe I just had my aha moment. It sounds like games like yours help open that safe space to where, like, yes, there's maybe some type of mythical aspect to it, but I'm also adding some realness to it, uh, the queerness, the sexuality, race, whatever it is that you want to add to it. So when you're, and I don't mean to put words into your mouth, but when you take the game away and you're put into certain situations that you've never been put into before, you can reflect back on that game and go, okay, you're not gonna go probably go, oh well, when I now that I'm with this person, when I went back to this game, I did this, but you start to kind of things start to trigger. Oh, this is probably how I need to conduct myself because I'm in front of this person. Because everything that you're saying just now, I just thought, well, instead of it coming out of a book, this is how you should talk to this person. This is how this person is going to act. It's a way, and I've never played the game, so I wouldn't know. But the way you're describing it, it's like, well, as you're asking these, it's a safe space to ask these questions, to interact a certain way. We're gonna stop you when things probably get a little heated, but let's start here, and so we can prepare you. Maybe I'm correct saying things wrong. So like you prepare you for whenever you're entering said
No, you're
space.
you're definitely on the right track. So
Okay.
TTRPGs, it's role playing. So it would be it's gonna feel like, if you've ever been in, like when I was starting my teacher training, they put you in scenarios where you're role playing conflict resolution, and you're having conversations, and everybody's putting themselves in a position and playing out roles. Role playing is very much like that. So it
Right.
allows you to put on a character and explore things. Um, and sometimes it's just exploring what it would be like, to be a wizard out there hunting dragons, but other times it's exploring what it would be like, to be a certain character, or step outside of yourself to
Mm-hmm.
explore aspects of yourself that you maybe aren't um, fully living in your day-to-day life. It also allows you to have, practice interactions. So um, most of us, or a lot of us within the studio, have an education background. We've either taught at some level within the industry or within the government. So for us, there's a lot of pedagogy in our products. So if you wanted to lean into, like, castle standards or social emotional learning, Tea Time Adventures is explicitly written around navigating relationships,
Got it.
navigating oneself, navigating communication and conflict management. That is intentionally baked into the game. In fact, when we had for quite a while, we had an educator portal on our website, And one of the things that we had been working on for that was kind of like lesson plans and supports that touched on those standards and the adventures that were directly linked to them, because we did very intentionally write several of our products to be able to explore that sort of explicitly. And there are educators who use tea time adventures
Mhm.
um, in their classroom or in their special ed programs to be able to help their students process and handle relationships and communication and social encounters, because they've seen the product and been like, oh, this is I can do something different with this and allow my kids to have a safe place to explore these certain dynamics. And then, as an educator, once you step back, you can then have conversations and discussions, um, and how deep that goes is like a lot of it rests on your GM, the person who's running the game, because they are your
Mhm.
NPCs. Uh, but if you've got a really good GM, then yes, you can explore a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and it it can trigger a lot of thoughtful moments. Especially if you were somebody that was coming in and you were from a cis het background, and you were thrown into the world of tea time adventures where there are just so many queer characters and there's disabled characters. You're gonna start seeing these people in their day-to-day life and interacting with them and seeing how your actions impact them emotionally, based on how your GM is playing it. And it can allow for a lot of really powerful reflection if it's handled
Mhm.
thoughtfully.
Yeah, I agree. So it makes me really want to look at this game and go, okay, uh, how can we put this in the hands of adults to just have just critical, healthy conversations, because there's so many of us who are in different spaces, and I'm not saying we don't know how to act, but like that's why when I was listening to you talk, I was like, this is a great way to just open the door to say, okay, let me introduce you to this. This may make you feel uncomfortable, and that's the whole part of it. But we're in a safe space. You are this character. This is what this character is. Here's their backstory. We're gonna go through these things. I really like it. I mean, I don't know how deep you can get where you can change things up, change things around, or whatever. But just having that opportunity to say, you are this person, or we don't you I don't know what kind of person you are as an individual, but you're playing this person, this is how they feel, this is how they think, and now you're navigating this journey. uh, let's talk about it during, and let's talk about it afterwards. We'll see how far we can go. There may be some things where we might have to pull back a little bit because of the space that we're in, but I like it because it opens up a lot of discussions. And
Yeah.
so because of all this representation and underrepresented voices from diverse characters and queer characters, why do you think? Why is Snow Bright so central to? Why is this so central to Snow Bright's mission? And then how do you handle? Because I'm hearing all of this, but also you know where I'm probably going to go with this, and I know we're trying to trick. We talked about this in the background, like we need to tread carefully. Why is this so central to Snow Bright's mission? And then how do you all handle that? You know, let's back up a little bit. This is a lot. How do you? Why is this all so important?
It's important to us because it is us. So I am a disabled individual. I have the privilege of living with several invisible disabilities. So if you just meet me and you don't know me, you don't know that I'm chronically ill. You don't know that I deal with chronic pain. Like you wouldn't necessarily know because I mask really well because I
Mm-hmm.
was born with all the conditions that I have, and I have learned over my 40 plus years how to hide them. Um, so, for me, um, having representation and having that representation just being kind of out in the open is really important, because your life becomes so much better and so much healthier and so much more fulfilling when the people around you don't require you to hide who you are and how you function. Um, I'm also a queer individual, and um, my public relationship with that has been a long and varied journey. It is something that I openly talk about in some areas, and it's sometimes something that I keep a little, closer to the cuff and others. But for us as a company, so much of us fall within that where our lived experiences are things that we think we should be able to live openly with, and that people should be able to have good, healthy, wholesome representation. And then for us, it's also important that that applies to uh, other individuals that have identities that we don't have. So, like when we were writing the ancestries for Tea Time Adventures, we were really careful about one, choosing the name Ancestry. We intentionally didn't call them like the races or the species. We went with Ancestry. We worked
Mhm.
really hard to make sure that everything was balanced and nothing felt like a trope, that all of our ancestry types were like really beautiful creatures, even when the creature that they evolved from isn't a traditionally beautiful creature. Like the culture of their ancestry is lovely and brings something really unique to the table. And we created this world where these different groups of animals have come together and created a shared culture
Mhm.
where the culture that they bring in from their ancestry is respected, shared, and uplifted, and has helped create this larger culture that is kind of the Verdant Isles. So for us, that's really important. And sometimes that's knowing when something isn't yours to tell. Like there are certain stories that we will never tell because the people that should be telling them aren't on our team. Um,
Okay.
and there are times when we will bring other people in and be, hey, like we need you to rate this, or we need you to read this, we need you to look at this, we need you to make sure that this is okay. So we are very cautious and very aware that we know our lane and we
Mhm.
try and stay in it. But like, so part of something, like part of that mission for us is uplifting other people's voices. So you see that in Cozy Companion, which is our cozy games and fiction magazine. That is all about uplifting voices within the industry. And that allows us to feature people that are having the conversations that we can't have because our team isn't reflected in that affinity group. um, but we can bring in the designers that are having those conversations because they are, and we can highlight and uplift the work that they're doing. And for us as a company, that's just always been really important, is creating safe space and doing kind of that advocacy work through the games that we make and through the products that we make.
I I love the fact that you even said like, we really want to tell these stories, but we don't look like the people who want to share those stories. Like I've actually, I'm not gonna say I haven't heard that. That would be lying. But for you to even open up and say like, hey, I want to talk about this, but I'm not the right person to talk about that. And I don't know what that's like in the meetings behind the scenes. Like, God, I really, especially what's going on in the industries and in the social media world, like, I really want to say this, and I know people that can say it, and we just need to go out and say it, but like, that doesn't really look right coming from my mouth. So like, do you feel like in your heart, like, I really want to talk about this, and are there certain uh, games where like, yeah, I want to talk about this, and I want to bring, and I'm just saying my name for example, but I want to bring Bradford in to make sure that this looks authentic, and then I want to maybe just and I'm just making this up, you guys. I want to make sure that Bradford is highlighting this. It's from Snowbright, but this is also checked or authored by Bradford. Is that something that you all do?
Um, yeah, so similar to that, like if we ever generally we stay in our lane.
Okay.
If there's anything that we feel might be close to the line, that's when we're gonna bring somebody in. Um, and a lot of times that's going to be considered like a sensitivity read, or a consulting. So we'll bring somebody in to be able to kind of go over that and make edits and suggestions, um, and then we adjust the work based on their feedback. And then with everything that we do, we credit anybody that's touched our products. We feel very strongly about people having, um, getting credit for the work that they've done for a
Mhm.
product. But yeah, and more likely what you would see is if there was something that we would really like to see out there, we're going to look for the people that are doing the thing or having that conversation. So like with Cozy Companion, um, we aren't going to be out there making games around like an Asian theme or around an indigenous theme, but we can go and find the companies that are Asian owned, and they bring in, the designers are Asian, the artists are Asian, everybody on the team is, and they are telling a story that is true to their lived experience.
Mhm.
Um, so it allows us to go, okay, here's something that we'd like to talk about or we'd like to showcase. We can't do it, but that company over there can. And then we bring them in and we do developer interviews, we do artist spotlights, and that gives those individuals the opportunity to tell their story and to showcase the work that they're doing,
Okay.
through their lens.
Okay. And so is it marked like under a Snow Bright game, or like how does that work?
So
And
that
I know I'm
is
speaking loosely, and I know that would be a long drawn out
no, no,
process.
you're good. So they aren't our games. So for
Okay.
example, the magazine that we have out right now is called Cozy Companion. Um cozycompanionmag.com. We have a magazine. I only have the old version. I don't have the new one. I've got the old ones here. These had our games in it. We rebranded over the summer, so we have a whole new look to it. Um but that is really the area that allows us to uplift other people's voices. So we're interviewing game developers, we're interviewing artists, we're interviewing people that work in the business. So say like, uh Cantrip Candles is a black owned business in LA, and they make beautiful candles that smell lovely, and they're themed around the tabletop game industry. It was
Mm,
so wonderful to be able to have them come on and talk about their company and talk about their experience, and highlight the work that he's doing in his company. Um, we've got, we've had other designers come on and we've talked about the games that they're making. So that magazine, and it's just all cozy gaming. So it's highlighting kind of the work that everybody's doing in this corner of the industry, but we do intentionally make sure that we're uplifting those voices that you don't often hear or you don't hear as much. So you're going to find, queer devs, you're going to find femme-identifying, you're going to find, people from various different backgrounds, that we're highlighting their work and showcasing what they're doing. And I'm really excited about it. I know we've got some really cool features that are coming up, that I can't really talk about because they
right.
haven't been announced yet. But I'm really excited to have been able to platform these voices because there's some really cool companies out there doing some really innovating things. And in that process, really uplifting their communities and providing, supports and opportunities for each other, which is just really, really fantastic to be able to be out here supporting.
And it's really great because it's highlighting like we're we're so into the trend of like what's current and what's popular, and that's great. But then there's this other population over here, no matter what you identify as, whatever, that is making some good stuff. And I'm not saying that they're quiet, but they're doing stuff, and but it's but it sometimes can get I don't know if overshadow is the right word, but like over these popular games that everybody wants to play and talk about. But like what you're doing is saying like, look, there's here's another option over here as you're playing this over here. take a look at what's also going over here on this side, because you and I definitely had this conversation even in the chat stuff where like I want to look for somebody who's creating games for me that look like me, that represent me, or even if the characters don't look like me, I know that the person that has made that game has put some thought in there that looks like me, those kind of things. And so that's why I appreciate the work that you do and what Snowbright does. They take that step out and all those things that you talked about, like with the person that makes the candles and so forth. So yeah, I like that because it's very important for people to see. Well, you can go over here and let's take a look at this because this talks about experiences. This also talks about life. This also helps us have those really tough conversations, and we can still control those tough conversations. But it's also representing different cultures, different identities, different ways of thinking. So I like that. I definitely like that. So speaking of trends
Yeah.
and all that stuff, where we talked about this in behind the scenes in the gaming culture. What trends are you seeing in the gaming culture and in tabletop or in digital that encourage you to keep on doing this? And where do you see that? I have some concerns here, and I know we got to talk real light, but like, where do you see that this is awesome? I see a lot of stuff, whether it's in the uh, big industries or whether it's in the indie industries that are really great. But there's also some of these things that, well, we need to really think about this.
Yeah, so there's a lot of really cool things happening, especially in the tabletop space. I think uh, for me, just kind of being in it now for 6 plus years and kind of watching the growth, we had talked kind of in a past conversation about, my experience when I moved to the town that I live in now,
Mm-hmm.
21 years ago. The first time I walked into our local game store here, it was one of those situations where everybody stops, everybody turns around, and you have a room full of men just staring at you as you try to find the product that you're looking for
It's like
because
Big Bang, like the Big Bang Theory
yeah,
episodes.
exactly like Big Bang. And now you don't have that as much. Now, like, if you were to go into the local game/comic store in town, there's a really good chance that you're going to have a trans woman behind the counter, and there's going to be a couple other women shopping, and nobody's going to look up at you past like acknowledging that you walked in the door, and you're not made to feel terribly uncomfortable anymore. Like there's been a really noticeable shift. It's not like 100% comfortable, but
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
even the business owners that I've interviewed for Cozy Companion have expressed how much of a difference they feel in their stores within the last 2 decades, um, around just femme identifying individuals being safe in their spaces, and how much more comfortable gender diversity has become. And some owners have talked about, like, 20 years ago you wouldn't have even considered there being trans people in your store, but now there are people in your store that you now know by a completely different name, and you use completely different pronouns with them because they have transitioned over the course of being a customer, and nobody thinks twice about it, and they're
Mm-hmm.
still like a valued member of that shop community, and their safe space has been created for them. And so some shops have been like, yeah, we started off, we had a men's bathroom, we had a women's bathroom, and now our bathrooms are gender free, and they're gender free because this particular person who was a important member of our community had a really important life change that happened, and the shop changed along with them. So for me, I'm getting emotional. For me, that's really cool to be hearing that, like, there's been this kind of awakening that's happened around just kind of the safety and how you create safe space for femme identifying individuals, but then just gender diverse individuals
Oh yeah.
as well. You see it at conventions. There's a lot of the conventions have bathrooms, and there's signage like everybody's safe and these are all inclusive bathrooms. You see a lot of people in like their fursonas, so like that's even gotten bigger, and they're safe. And like I remember leaving Gen Con 2 years ago, and a taxi, my Uber driver was like, "This is wild. Like this is the wildest community that I see when I pick up for all the conventions I pick up for. You guys are just." I'm like, "Yeah, you've got that person over there in a fursuit, you've got, visibly queer people, like and then you've got like the dude, who's like short and got the beard and looks very manly, and like, and we're all coexisting in this space." And he's like, "Yeah, and you look like you're getting along." Oh yeah, like we're safe in this space. Um, there's still friction. I One of the things that I do on my own is I volunteer for Gamma, which is a big, kind of trade organization around the tabletop industry, and I'm the current chair for the DEI committee,
Hmm.
and we work, on different initiatives around diversity, equity, and inclusion, um, and we've definitely seen a shift this year that has been concerning,
Okay.
and stores that were really safe places are having, small portions of the population are pushing back, or the community around them is pushing back. There have been store owners that have expressed some concern, like they're finding like if they have a queer section during Pride, um, they'll turn around and notice that all the games are turned over or backwards, or all the signs are removed. Like, so there's been an uptick in some discriminatory behavior within the community, and I think unfortunately we're likely to continue to see that. So I think if you work in the games industry right now, um, we've made so much progress, and it is so much better and safer and more welcoming and more inclusive, and a lot of companies are still out there doing that work.
Hmm.
um, but we are looking at a period of time where some people are going very quiet with their identities in order to keep themselves safe, in order to keep their staff safe. um, and we are seeing organizations push back. We're seeing the removal of DEI initiatives, we're seeing the
Right.
removal of DEI supports. Uh, so I can't tell you what it's going to look like 3 years from now. I know where we are right now, and there's been a lot of positive change, but things are going to get even more challenging now than they have been this year. And, where that's going to end, I don't know.
Yeah. And
And
I and we both are parents, and I, my daughter and my son are in their 20s, and I just look at the world that they're around. I'm not talking about the problem stuff, but like I'm as you were talking, like I'm picturing their rooms right now, and we were talking about going into the game comic book store. I was also saying, like, there's so many different stories now to tell about LGBTQ, about being black, about being whatever disabilities. Like when you literally walk in, you can ask. Sometimes you can just ask them, "I'm looking for this. Do you have this?" I'm like, "I'm looking for something that's like this." "Oh yeah, that's over there." My daughter, she has so many different books. You walk into her room, like my son has different, art statues or whatever you call them. But when you walk into my daughter's room, like she has a lot of anime, manga books, and like she goes into that space a lot. And so when you were saying that story, I was picturing my kids just walking into that space, and they know what they can find. Are there still issues and problems? Yes, there are. But like they, it's very interesting to just walk and go, I'm looking for this, and it's there. Or if it's not there, the manager or the employee know where they can go get it. It can be ordered, and it's okay to say, "I'm looking for this." And
yeah.
I even asked my kids, like, "Where do you know this stuff?" And oh, I found it on social media, or I had found it in this conversation, or you know, I, it's on Netflix or something like that, or even when I'm just now finding out about it, like, "Oh, did you know about this?" "Oh, Dad, we already knew about that." Like, that's really cute, but it gets really raunchy, Dad. Did you know that? I'm like, "Oh, no, I did not know that." But, like, and that's it, conversation that we have because, these are young adults now. They're not little kids. But like from those conversations, I'm learning that how what spaces that they're entering in and how some things are welcoming, some things are not, and it's great to look at that from the eyes of a 20-year-old to see what that to see definitely what that looks like.
Yeah.
So, well, what because of creating these safe spaces that you've talked about and being inclusive and being in the tabletop industry and esports and all of those things, what lessons from this work what lessons from this work can you think the wider gaming industry learn right now? Because the gaming industry is such like this.
Yeah.
It's always been like, even when we first met and talked, it was like this. Maybe it's been like this. I don't know.
It is what it's like. For me, I think it's really important for those of us that work in the gaming industry, regardless of whether it's board games, whether it's TTRPG, whether it's video games, to really understand and respect the power that games have to tell a story, to inform, to teach, to connect, and to build and maintain community. And if you are thoughtful and you take the time to respect that, you can create such powerful experiences that can be life changing
Yeah.
to individuals, both in the connections that you will help them form through playing your game and in the thought process and um, epiphanies that you can create through the games that you've made, through the storytelling, even sometimes through the UI. Um, Games are that powerful. And so if you're intentional, there is a whole world that you can open up to people, and avenues that you can allow them to explore, again, because it is a safe space to experience these things. There's no end to the power in that.
Yeah.
And I wish that was respected um, more than it is.
I agree with that. There, there's so much power in this space, and especially with the guests that we have coming after you. They have a lot of knowledge, and they come in with a lot of heart. You come in with the biggest heart that I know when it comes to being in this space. And there's a reason why, you and I have talked like where I said I just want to get out. Like I'm done. Like I'm. For those of y'all who don't know, we're not going to get into it right now. But like there have been some times where like, you know what, that's it. Close up the box, close up the Nintendo, close up the streaming. I'm done. I'm gonna go work at McDonald's. That's how, and that's with any. I know that's with any job, but
Yeah.
especially in our space, in our community, we know how toxic it can be. We know how stressful it can be, and there's the representation, especially with us talking right now. There's not a people that look like you or me in the space, and especially a lot of people that don't look like me in this space that are still talking, still standing. I'm still marvel sometimes, like, oh my god, I'm still here, I'm still standing. My conversations have shifted, my ideas have shifted. I'm still talking about gaming, but like I'm thinking about it on a different level, like how you said, like, okay, well, in our private conversation, there seems things where, well, I'm taking a step back, but I'm still in by looking like this. I'm still seeing what's going on, and so those are the things that I like to point out to the viewers who are watching and people who are going to watch this on the VOD. Like, there's opportunities in this space, but you have to figure out where you think you want to fit in that space. And I think people want to rush into the big industry type space where it's a lot toxic. But not to say that the smaller ones aren't toxic, but like I've learned, like you were saying, like start small and work from there and see what kind of footprint, digital or analog, that you can really, really put there. So we are at the top of the hour. I can't believe, God, the conversation. But I want to ask you, since we are both educators, we are both designers, we are both creators, and for those of us who are like us who are watching, how can they start thinking about like doing what you're doing what I'm doing, bringing inclusive practice, bringing inclusive designs into their own products, even if it's at a small scale? What can they start doing?
I think the first thing that you need to do is diversify what you were taking in. And that is really intentional. So if you were to take my phone and look at my TikTok FYP, um, it's not white. Like it's very queer, it's very Asian, it's very indigenous, it's very Middle Eastern, it's very black. It is it is all the demographics that I'm not. And I am very intentional about that because I want to make sure that I am seeing what creatives are producing from a different lens and a different point of view. And I also intentionally want to hear what they're saying about the communities that I'm from, so that I can constantly be checking myself and unpacking my bag because I understand that being in the body that I'm in comes with certain different disadvantages, but it also comes with a lot of privilege.
Yeah.
And it's my job to make sure that I'm always aware of that. And there's been a great conversation that's been happening on TikTok lately around the ability for an individual to cause harm without intention. And so I think that's the big thing is it is so easy for people to get excited and think they're doing a good thing and end up causing a lot of harm. Um, even though they didn't intend it. And so I think for me that's a big thing is it's a lot of sitting back, it's a lot of listening, it's a lot of learning, it's a lot of unpacking, and it's a lot of being quiet. And like you said, like here's this thing I want to say, but I know that there's like no, that's for me to process. The world doesn't need to hear that. That's for me to unpack, and my turn on these situations is to listen. So I think if you're trying to kind of get into that, it's really taking in what people are saying and what they're expressing and their concerns and their frustrations and not taking it personal, um, because there's going to be a lot of generalizations, but
Hmm.
understanding where it does apply to you and unpacking that and then making changes and forming relationships outside of your affinity groups, because I think that's the biggest thing is you'll see a lot of products and people are like I did this really great thing and it's celebrating Asian culture and the entire dev team is white, and you're like yeah but it's not a real authentic thing, and all they had to have was one person on the team that was Asian to be able to be like, you see that in spaces where men create stuff for women, and like it was like women are like, oh no, oh
Yeah.
no, like it just took one person to let you know that this was
What was
not the
that? What
thing.
was that meeting about? Who was in that meeting?
Yeah. So
Who checked the box?
right. How many people approved this?
Yeah.
So it is. You can't be in a bubble. You have to intentionally diversify your life and you have to maintain that actively. And realize where you have gaps and then start to fill it, and make sure that those relationships and those connections are genuine, because otherwise it's just performative. Like you need it. I don't know.
I concur, and I'm gonna say something that's probably really, I don't know if it's controversial or not, but like this is where social media helps, and let me explain why, because I think you led to it. For me, I've started to listen to people that I may not even agree with at all, that really get under my skin. Like, what the hell is that? I've started going down that rabbit hole. However, comma, I'm just listening and I'm just watching. Um, I'm not posting a comment. I'm not saying anything. This is where you said it's be quiet and listen. Even if it's something that is asinine and wrong, and racist or whatever, sexist, whatever. Like yes, I do listen to those because I want to understand where that conversation is coming from. I'm not
Yeah.
here to change you. I'm not here to post. I'm not here to say I'm gonna do this, whatever. But I need to understand like this is where this is coming from, even if it is fake or even if it is over the top, or even if it is to get views. I don't like it. I don't subscribe to it. I just like, okay, well, this is a chance for me to go, okay, this is what some people in the world are probably thinking right now. Where do I stand with that? How do I take that in? Right now, maybe I feel angry. Maybe I feel happy. Maybe I feel whatever. How do I take that in and put that into my work, but it doesn't cause any type of harm, but or just maybe it's not time for you to put it into a work. It's just time for you to just process and think. And I think that's where the good of swiping up and down and left and right can come in. I think the danger of it is, well, wait, I'm just going to use your name. I am so mad at what Carrie said. I'm going to post and I'm going to make a comment, just because I feel like saying something. No, this is your time to sit back and, okay, well, let me go face to face with somebody. Let me talk to. Remember, we've had this. Let me call Carrie up. What do you think about what was said here? Let's have a dialogue before I, fall off a ledge here. This person said this. Carrie, what do you think? Because right now I feel angry. Right now I feel this, and right now I just want to do this. Okay, Bradford, let's take a step back because I feel the same way, or I don't feel the same way, and here's why. I think that's the part that is really missing. I think, and again, that's where I think social media can be helpful. I mean, I'm just saying.
No, social media is one of those things that it can be. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. It can be really, really helpful, or it can be a real detriment depending on how it's used. Um, and that's where, like, if you're an educator, media literacy is so important. And like some of the conversations and lessons that I had with my students was around how they conduct themselves online, and
Mm-hmm.
taking that step back and processing. Because like you said, if somebody's coming off with a hot take and you're like, this is problematic, that that hot take is there for a reason. It's either rage bait and they're monetized out of it, so the more angry you get, the more money they're making,
Right.
or it comes from a place of fear or concern or a lack of understanding. And if you get to a point where you can figure out kind of where things are coming from, that also lets you know, either one, can they be reachable, or if you're producing games, potentially how you can reach people that you couldn't reach before. I mean, I remember, was it Detroit Becomes Human?
That's my
um
game.
I remember that game coming out and seeing several white male creators suddenly get racism, and I was caught off guard. But for quite a few people that it was seen, it suddenly clicked, and I was like, it took this video game, and you can, like, the game is very intentional. Um, so yeah, like sometimes if you understand the fear, and then you can create a like you can, like were talking about earlier, of the power of gaming, you can present a safe environment for people to change their views, or to feel empathy where they didn't before, or to realize that the fear that they're feeling isn't actually directed towards these people, it's directed towards something else. um, but in order to, like, understand that, you kind of have to understand what's moving those other individuals, and you can't get there without listening.
Yeah, I agree. And shameless plug on that game. That is a very powerful game. I have completed the game, and like reflecting on the choices that I made in that game and the decisions that I made, I was like, ooh. And
Yeah.
for those of you now who haven't played it, and with this conversation around tech and AI, go back and replay it or play it again, because you're gonna start to go, oh, this is probably where I think we're gonna go, or we could go. We need to have some dialogue and some conversation, because as I was playing through, I'm like, wow, it's time to it's time to revisit. It's time to
Yeah.
have some discussions. And like I said, the choices that I made in those games, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of concerns. Even with the survey, I actually wanted to. I'm going to put that survey out there because I redid the survey. I mean, I changed some things with it, and I really didn't change anything. But like, not a lot of people have seen that survey until you
Hmm.
played it. It asks a lot of purring questions, and to get you to really think. Like, one of them is, do you want, not necessarily an ad, but do you want a machine to do surgery on you. Ooh.
Yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's a beautifully intentional game.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
I can get on my soapbox about that, but Carrie, where can people reach out to you, contact you, and Snowbright Studio?
So if you're looking to get in touch with Snowbright Studio, the best way to reach us is contact@snowbrightstudio.com. That'll land you in my inbox and I can direct you wherever you need to be. If you want to check out our products, snowbrightstudio.com, or you can look up Cozy Companion. There's also links to the new magazine site on our website. If you're looking for me, I am most active on Blue Sky and I am at Chocmoojoo, CHOCMOOJOO. And then I'm on Instagram, I am Chocmoojuice. Funny story, my students created my original Instagram account and then I haven't had access to it. So I finally managed to jailbreak it like years after I had established my secondary one. So all of my stuff is on Chocmoojoo. Someday I'll sort it out and get the names all
I need to
all
look,
right.
Wait, I think aren't I on Chocmoojoo? What?
You're on Chocmoojuice. It's the actual, actual name.
Maybe I'm not paying attention because I just see the Chocmoojoo.
No, because you just know me as Chocmoojoo. Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, but on like TikTok and Blue Sky, those are the two places I'm the most active. I'm just Chocmoojoo. Yeah.
Got you. Well, Carrie, thank you so much for your insights, your conversation. It's very much needed, and you and Snowbright are doing great work in this space. Everybody, make sure that you are following Carrie and Snowbright Studio, and if you have questions, she's there to contact. I'm gonna make sure I put this information in the show notes, and make sure you all, for me, follow TinkerTech.edu and like, follow, and subscribe. And that's gonna be do it for this hour. And Carrie, we definitely gonna have to talk afterwards. So stay on.
I'll stick around.
All right. It's Bradford Harris, also known as EdTech Tinker, across your social media channels. Thanks for tuning in and staying connected. Whether you're here for the first time or returning, welcome. I'm passionate about digital learning, STEM, esports, gaming, and emerging technology. And I'm here to help you make an impact using digital tools and future-ready strategies. Through my work with TinkerTech.edu, I help educators, professionals, and organizations design engaging learning experiences, build career pathways, and scale innovation. From instructional design and online course development to digital fluency workshops and career branding services, I've got you covered. Do you need help with your resume, social or website profiles, or launching a course? Want to level up your skills or your team's tech strategy? Let's talk. You can quickly explore all my services and connect with me easily at linkapp.com/edtechtinker. Whether it's Twitch, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, or my official site at tinkertechedu.com, I'm just a click away. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to stay in the loop with live streams, on-demand content, and the latest updates. Turn on your notifications so you never miss what's happening in the world of digital learning and emerging technology. I go live at least twice a month, bringing you fresh, tailored content every time, from gaming and education to tech tool tutorials to professional growth strategies. Did you miss a stream? No worries. You can catch the highlight reels and full replays anytime on my YouTube channel at youtube.com/@edtechtinker. And hey, you got a question, you want to collaborate, or are looking for presentations, consulting, or professional development sessions, virtual or in person, just reach out. Let's connect and create something meaningful starting today. Thanks again for being part of this journey, and I'll see you next time.